Good morning. Another blue sky, gray sky kind of day here in Hong Kong. And we are up for our morning hike. A little bit late. Wanted to come out here about an hour ago, but I wanted to sleep too. I'm going home. I'm moving back to Washington, D.C. for a couple years at least. We're going to pursue some career opportunities in the States, and my kids were accepted to a very, very good school. Oh, it's really beautiful today. So we wanted them to pursue, hey, I'll be here next week, cool. Pursue some academic opportunities back in America. I'll be going back to Washington, D.C. You are on Victoria Peak, and you are looking down at central Hong Kong right now on a rather nice cloudy day. There is a hint of blue sky back there. The blue sky will come up in a bit, I think. Hey, Zen. I'm going to miss walking, to be honest. Not just these sort of hikes, but walking to do stuff. Walking here, walking there. Walking everywhere. That's one of the advantages of Hong Kong. I will try to scope from Washington occasionally. I will be coming back to Hong Kong on occasion as well. They make it look like it's bigger. I miss noodles. Yeah. Ooh, we're still going uphill. What a day. So there's the blue sky. It's just this little hole of blue sky, and then back down to the city below. You can see the hole is making like a sunlight place right over there. I'm moving to the United States. Not so much because I want to, but kind of need to. Hey, moms are hip. I will be scoping from America, probably, once I get a phone plan. We will sort of have a base here in Hong Kong. Hey, Sydney, how you doing? Something I look most forward to. What do I look most forward about the United States? Not much. Amazon Prime. Okay, yeah, Amazon Prime. Yeah, I'm not really looking forward to this move, to be honest. We have lots of. Oh, it's been weird. Hong Kong is a wonderful place. Yeah. You have to understand that my kids grew up here. You know, I was going through the old photos yesterday, and there's pictures of my kids in diapers, and there's kids and pictures of strollers, and that all those memories are Hong Kong. Less expensive. Actually, it's going to be about the same price living in Washington D.C. because the private schools in the United States cost twice as much as the private school here. So between private school and rent, it's basically a wash. While the rent is cheaper, of course, in DC, the private schools are more expensive. So, welcome back home. Actually, we kind of consider this our home. We'll see. We'll see. It's going to take a while for home to become back to the United States. Home is where your community is, where the restaurants are, your friends, etc. We will have more space, but honestly, we left a rather large house in America to come to Hong Kong, and we actually really enjoyed living in a smaller house. I'll try to do lunch scopes, but they won't be as interesting. Moving to a smaller house put the family closer together. There was nowhere the kids could go and stuff like that. The kids were all on top of each other, and it was just kind of like fun, having a smaller house. Now, the boys have physically gotten bigger, such that our current house is a little bit too small. But, we're not going to buy a 3,000 or 5,000 square foot McMansion when we go back to D.C. We're going to keep in a smaller house. Our house here in Hong Kong is 1,000 square feet, but that's being generous. The actual living area is much, much smaller. Hong Kong is beautiful. 1,000 square feet for Hong Kong is huge, but for the U.S., it's rather small. We will get to experience snow and winter. I will be in D.C. proper. McDonald's, yeah, that's one of the things my son said. He said, we're not going to have McDonald's gourmet. I want gourmet McDonald's. Yes, I am leaving in 8 days. The movers come in 6 days. We leave in 8. We fly over to Tokyo. Going to Tokyo for 2 days. And then we'll come back. Expensive. Yeah, our rent is about 8,500 US a month here in Hong Kong. 8,500 US per month in rent. Whoa, hey Wellington. So we will be doing one final Periscope, and it's a week from today. Alexandria, okay, very close. 1 week from today will be my final day of Periscoping in Hong Kong. We're going to go and have one last peak hike, and we'll have one last noodles, and one last fish and chips, and one last this and that. We've already been in those stages. You know, we went to a certain part of town and we're like, oh, this is probably the last time we're coming here. This is probably the last time we're coming to this place. We sold our car yesterday. Yeah, my car is gone. Guy paid cash for it. It took about 4 minutes to transfer the title at the DMV. There was no line. Walked in, 4 minutes later, the car was his. I will move to DC proper. My kids are going to school in Northwest DC, and we will probably try to live very, very close to their school. Wow, what a beautiful picture. I really should have brought my second phone today. Maybe I should have brought the drone. No, she won't be working. Fort Belvoir. Yeah, we try to keep it here too. What was the name of the tall building? This is the IFC building, and that over there is the ICC building. And these have a subway that connects them. Yeah, I'm going to have to go back to that rinky-dink metro system in Washington. It's going to be, hey, Scotland, how's it going? What a beautiful picture today. Here we go, 200 people. Hey, guys, those are cicadas. They're just everywhere today. So, you guys, I will visit Hong Kong from time to time. I'm still a resident of Hong Kong, a permanent resident of Hong Kong. And I've just been passed by a phalanx of canines. Hello. At 1,400 feet above sea level, I will go to Chinatown, but it's pretty lame. My kids are kind of supporting France and England right now. I don't know. Yeah, I'm not sure. We got to sort of time out our meals. I'm kind of post a map. I'm going to do a penguin6.com. There's going to be a review of all the restaurants I go to and a map, so you guys, when you come to Hong Kong, you can find it. I'm going to have to adapt to American life. Yeah, I'm already looking for a car. It's just kind of like, I have no idea what cars are. Washington Chinatown is pretty lame. Haven't seen that. So we will scope a bit in the U.S. The internet in the U.S. is really weak. It's not as fast as the internet here, or as reliable. So it'd be kind of sad. So the guy I sold the car to yesterday was telling me about how he ran into a king cobra about 4 meters long. It's about 12 feet. Volvo XC6. You know, I actually looked at the Volvo station wagon, but I just couldn't do it. Yeah, there are a lot of homeless in American McDonald's. I think we'll be hitting Five Guys, though. I'm actually a pretty big fan of Five Guys. 8 years isn't that long. It's not, but my kids have got another 8 years of secondary schooling before they start university, so take your family to Scotland. I've been to Scotland several times. I haven't taken the kids there, though. Maybe we'll do that next trip. I actually remember took my wife to the beach at St. Andrews, and we did the Chariots of Fire run on St. Andrews Beach. Well, living overseas kind of changes you a bit. It's a little bit difficult, you know. Living anywhere, you become sort of an expat. You haven't eaten at Five Guys? Oh, wow, I love this. Hey, West England. 30 degrees, that's insane for West England. That's insane for anywhere in England, yeah? You're welcome, Mumster Hip. Winnipeg, Canada. This is the Winnipeg Grenadiers, or the men who defended Hong Kong from the Japanese attack. Many, many, many of the Winnipeg Grenadiers have their final resting place here in Hong Kong, as they were basically thrown in, undermanned, under-equipped, and put up against the most talented army of World War II at the beginning of the war. I will scope from DC. In fact, if you look at my scopes last week, I was at the Chai Wan Military Cemetery in Hong Kong, where 2,000 Allied servicemen are buried from the Battle of Hong Kong. And you can see that in my previous scopes. And on YouTube. Go to my YouTube channel, Penguin 6. You can see video from that. There's Five Guys in London. I knew there was a Five Guys in London, and there was a Five Guys in Paris when I was there. But it hadn't opened one in Paris. No, we're sort of no real trade one. Why does life seem so much more exciting? I don't know. It's just done in a different surrounding, a different backdrop. But my life here is so incredibly similar to life in the USA, and I think that's what people kind of find as they watch me more and more. They sort of start to realize, yes, this guy's on the Star Ferry, cutting across a harbor of the South China Sea, but the reality is he's just going to a Toys R Us. I go to a Toys R Us. He goes to a Toys R Us. Kind of the same. Same now. I'm up here on this peak overlooking this gorgeous skyline and the beautiful clouds, but it's still just a morning walk. Oh, Gare du Nord, there was another Five Guys. I don't remember what district it was in. And we traveled all the way down there only to find out that it hadn't opened yet. I think that was the first Five Guys. But now there's one up at the train station. That's cool. We may be in Europe next summer. We're definitely going to be in Europe in 2020 for the Euro 2020 competition. I will try to scope in DC. Shake Shack is okay. I don't like the French fries. The burgers are okay. They're pretty good for Hong Kong standards. I don't know how many of them I'll eat in the US, though. Very worried about gaining weight. I've gained weight the last few months because of all the stress of this move. It's just more and more stress piled on top of each other every single day. It will be difficult to walk back in America. I know some places to hike in DC, but it won't be as beautiful as this. I'm not even sure I can do it. DC is bound to be cheaper. Sorta. So private schools here in Hong Kong run about $25,000 US dollars per kid, 25,000 American dollars per kid. But private schools in Washington, D.C. are double that, 50,000 US per kid. And while my rent here is about $8,500 a month, the rent near my son's school is going to be as high as, easily $4,000 US dollars a month. So right then and there, you're looking at, darn near about the same amount. It's about $150,000 to stay here for rent and schools in Hong Kong, and it's about $148,000 rent and schools in Washington, D.C. So it'll be about the same. I'm moving back to the United States for some career opportunities for both my wife and myself. And for my kids, they were accepted to a very, very elite private school in Washington, D.C. And we wanted to give them a chance to experience an excellent school in America and see if it makes any academic difference. No, not that one. No, I haven't. We will be able to watch hockey and all sorts of other sports. L.A., Pasadena. Closest to Hong Kong from Pasadena. I was actually in LA last summer. We drove across the United States last summer. You can see that on my YouTube channel, Penguin 6. We drove from San Francisco down to LA, over the Grand Canyon, up through Zion, Salt Lake, Yellowstone, Montana, North Dakota, South Dakota, and on there. I'm going to miss Chinese food. I have no idea where I'm going to find decent wonton noodles. I'm going to have to experiment in DC to find some wonton mian. We'll see what we can do. Yeah, I enjoyed the hike. Yeah, it's been so long. Yeah, you have to come back. 2015. Hong Kong has changed. We got a Shake Shack now. Yeah. I pay for privilege. I pay for different things. I pay for smaller class sizes, stuff like that. kind of work do you make? My wife is a banker. I'm in technology consulting. I guess is that most of the time I'm a dad though. Dad stuff is good. Hello. God, it's really humid today. Thank you for good food. I'm not fluent in Chinese. This is not the last walk. We'll be here another week. When Manny relocating, we're not sure. Still privileged. Well, life is what it is. Different people have different privileges, different desires, different wants. We will definitely be sacrificing some things to go to this school, that's for sure. Things that other people might take for granted. I don't think they would at a state-run school, to be honest. I think my kids would get lost in a state school. We looked very heavily at the public schools in D.C. and Virginia, some of which are very highly ranked, but we just did not feel that given our kids' personalities, experiences, and the size of those schools, our kids would get the type of attention that we wanted for them. So we decided to sacrifice a few other things and I can't send them to boarding school. I don't want to be away from them. The language here is English. Speaking English is all that's required. English and Chinese are both official languages of Hong Kong, so living here with English is fine. My father is a professor of education and a great advocate of public schools, but public schools have changed since I was there and when he was there. And the country has changed a great deal as well. I'm not going to homeschool. They learned far too much about soccer and far too little about art. So I was teaching my kids last night about punk rock. I showed them some big 70s hair bands, and then I showed them disco. And I said, see, this is what happened to society. They got into these big hair bands that were these crazy glam, and then they got into disco. And the only response that made sense was punk. So I was watching God Save the Queen by the Sex Pistols and some Clash. I did show them some Saturday Night Live videos. That's Saturday Night Fever. God, I'm so old. They're like, Daddy, why does that man's hair stick straight up? I'm like, that's John Travolta. And he was cool. God, now you guys have got Bee Gees in my head. Man, just talking about Saturday Night Fever means I've got this Bee Gees song ringing in my ears. Yeah, I will like this, but soccer is a bit disjointed at the youth level in the United States. The different teams and leagues and structure. It's a bit of a mess, to be honest. I did show them the Disco Demolition. They're like, that was Steve Dahl blowing up the stuff. That's the song I'm singing, Beza. It's okay. You can look the other way. It's interesting. It will be closer to Europe. You know, DC to England and France is only about 8 hours. Well, it's about 13 to 14 hours here. But culturally, they're much closer to Europe here in Hong Kong than they are in the United States. The view, let's just wait for the tram. Abbey Road. Actually, we have a famous photo of our family crossing at Abbey Road. I took on Christmas Day 2013 with my family walking across the crosswalk at Abbey Road. And whenever my son's school says, can you please send a photo of your family? I send them that photo. And I just decided that we need to update that. So the updated photo I'm going to take when we get back to DC. I'm going to get everybody a black sports coat and a white shirt and a bow tie. And we're going to do this like David Byrne, once-in-a-lifetime talking heads kind of pose as a family. I think that would be just an awesome photo, you know. Letting the days go by, let the water hold me down. So I'm going to do like this David Byrne, like funky arm swing kind of photo with the whole family wearing suits. If I could just get him to do it. Same as it ever was. Same as it ever was. That would be an awesome family photo. I actually got in trouble at the current school because they had the directory, the student directory. They said, please make sure you update the student directory with your current details, for emergency purposes. So I went in there, and there's all this stuff like, name, phone, emergency contact. And then I saw this one that said kid's nickname, or name kid wants to be go as. So for my son, I put Connor, the godfather of funk. And for Parker, I said the spin master of soul. And I put those as the kids' nicknames. And that actually went out to the teachers on their little class register. Connor, godfather of funk, and Parker, spin master of soul. And so the teachers were like, what the hell? No, we ain't doing Saturday night. It's amazing what fun you can have with schools. Got to keep it light. Got to keep it fun. Let's go look at that view, yeah? It's an amazing view today. Now I got the Bee Gees in my head. Oh, God. Why can't I put God Save the Queen in my head? God Save the Queen. England screaming. God Save the Queen. My kids are 12 and 9. Can't even see the ICC. I'm moving back to Washington, D.C. for a few years at least. Future. My house is right down there, so I just live in that tiny little house there with the little white things on the roof. That's my house there, on the tiniest one there. It's only 38 stories. Barely makes it through the thing. I actually was going to ride the little train yesterday. I was like, oh, I should ride the tram. I should stop taking taxis up here because I'm not going to get that many tabs. But then I realized it was like 6:30. Why am I moving? Career opportunities, and wasn't that a song by The Clash too? Career opportunities, and also for some academic opportunities for my kids. Everybody lives in an apartment, basically. There are very few houses here in Hong Kong. I wonder what uni I'll be at. Though, in the end, what we looked at is we were thinking about what kind of kid do we want when he finishes high school? What kind of skill set, what kind of academic stuff does he want? We weren't really thinking this school. I mean, of course, the school placement is one way to judge how people judge a school, of course. But in the end of the game, we wanted a kid. We looked at the kids that go to the school that we're going to, and we said that's the kind of boy we want to have at the end of their secondary schooling. That's kind of how they carry themselves, how they speak, how they emphasize certain bits of education. This is the kind of kid we want to send to a college of his choice, so long as it's Harvard. No, I'm kidding. I don't want my kid to go to Harvard. The kids are born in the United States. They're actually born in Washington, D.C., and then we moved here when they were very young. They don't remember anything about the United States. They have no friends in the United States. We've talked with them about why we're doing the move, and they're actually okay. I think, to be honest, they're better adjusted to the move than my wife and I. We're more concerned. We will scope at lunch sometime. The kids do speak Mandarin, and they will continue to speak Mandarin. They can read and write. I think my last lunch will be noodles. That will be in about a week from today. And then last dinner will probably be fish and chips. Back there in that house, Chow Yun Fat's aunt and uncle live. This place here, you get 1,600 square feet for about 15,000 US dollars. It's, that's an interesting point about coming back. My kids are learning Simplified, but most of the language here is Santi, the traditional characters. Being a third culture kid, being an expat that moves back, English and Mandarin, is difficult. There are many anecdotal reports and even a few studies that kids who are brought up overseas, American expats, coming from sort of the bubble and going back to the United States, actually don't really assimilate perfectly with their American counterparts. They have a slightly different perspective on things, a slightly different mannerisms, etc. Many of the third culture kids that move back to the United States end up back in a bubble of other third culture kids, kids that were raised overseas, friends with international students, not really the Joe American college experience. They don't relate perfectly to those kind of kids. It actually has caused some academic problems with some kids who've gone back. Imagine going to college and not finding your niche, not finding your group. And that can be just as troublesome as any other problem you have. So we're going to do this transition now when they're younger, see if it takes, if they just can't stand it, if they just don't like it, then we'll come back. So it's something we're looking at. Where do we go from here? We're going to Washington, D.C. After Washington, D.C., I don't know. We're headed to Washington, D.C. This will not be our final posting. I do believe we will transition somewhere else in the world, probably when they go to university. No future. I'm pushing for London or Paris. This is more normal than... Actually, I know this sounds bizarre because I live in a city of 7.5 million people, but my life is easier here. My life is simpler. It is more convenient than life in America. Life in America is tougher than life here. It's more expensive here, of course. It's much more expensive. But if you can afford it, you can have a much simpler, much easier life here in Hong Kong than you do in the United States. Just left for DC. Oh, just left. Part of it is because everything is so convenient. I mean, I have a grocery store across the street from my house. I mean, I push the shopping cart out of the grocery store into my elevator and into my apartment. I can walk within 15 to 20 minutes of my house are probably 300 restaurants. I'm not kidding, 300 restaurants within 15 minutes of my house. There are dozens of doctors and dentists and hardware stores. My life, and the thing about the U.S. is it is rushed, and part of the rush is because you got to drive everywhere, and you never know, is there going to be traffic, how far it's going to take to get there. Here, I know exactly how many minutes it takes me to get to the doctor, and it's the same every single day because I walk there. Yeah, it's 14 minutes. My noodle shop is 12 minutes. The fish and chip is 11 minutes. Those brooms are huge. I don't know if they'll fit in our shipping container. Yeah, and the U.S. is just very intense. And driving here is different. When we do drive, it's actually slower. And the other thing also is we have domestic helpers. We have workers, nannies, drivers, maids. It is taxing, It's very stressful. It's very, very stressful. Like, I tell the story about how one time I had a business meeting. I woke up to take a shower and realized I had no shampoo. And I was like, God, I've got to drive 10 minutes to the grocery store, go find the shampoo, pay for it, come back. It's like 25 minutes of my day just because I didn't happen to have any shampoo. It was just like, ugh. So it's just different. Oh, by the way, the signal's going to get a little choppy. We're going to have a little bit choppy signal for a few moments. So I'm still going to broadcast. It's just going to get choppy. Ooh. But, I mean, on converse, though, you have things in America like an Amazon Prime delivering stuff to you, and you have cheaper food. I mean, I'm tired of paying $14 for a gallon of milk. $14 US for a gallon of milk here in Hong Kong. I do have a Filipino nanny, and she may come with us. We don't know yet. So the metro is a mess, yeah. Because our move is a temporary one, and we're going to be repositioned somewhere else, there is a chance our nanny can come with us. So if not, we'll have to hire a nanny there. It would be nice for our nanny because she knows the kids so well. She's been with us for years. Nanny makes Filipino food, yeah. Well, occasionally, mostly cakes like babinka, and the kids love puto. They have those little rice cupcakes. We have puto probably every other week. And then, like, I think my son's birthday cake was a babinka cake because he really liked that. And it's funny because in DC area there actually are a few Filipino. Now we buy our milk imported from Australia or the United States. We don't drink Chinese milk. Don't trust Chinese milk. So near our house, our beach house, is a place called Patuxent River Naval Air Station. This is the Navy's test pilot school in southern Maryland, just outside of DC. And surprisingly, there's a large number of Filipino grocery stores down there because a number of naval officers married some Filipinos. I haven't tried the other thing, pancit, Filipino spaghetti. Oh, we'll talk to her about it. What's funny is that when we hired our nanny, she had one reservation about working for us, is that we asked her to bake, like cakes and cupcakes, and she had never baked before. So she learned how to bake, and now she really loves it. And she bought, last time she was here, she bought a whole bunch of brownies, American brownie mix, and sent it home to her daughter in the Philippines. And now her daughter, whenever she has a play date, they all make brownies for her and her friends, and they all eat the brownies together. And they're like, ooh, these are so yummy. Unlike Chinese, most of our Filipino nannies have really enjoyed sweets. You know, I've never seen anyone play tennis on that tennis court ever in 8 years. In 8 years, I've only seen two people on that tennis court. One, a security guard, and another, a sweeper guy. I've never seen anyone play tennis there. Yeah, I don't trust Chinese agricultural products, to be honest. There's just too much corruption, pollution, pesticides. It's scary. I will miss Hong Kong a great deal. I think she's a little excited about coming to America. She's also a little bit apprehensive. I think she's nervous about being so far away from her family. You know, if there was an emergency, it's basically a day to get home to the Philippines. Here in Hong Kong, it's a few hours. We are going to Washington, D.C. Well, actually, we're actually going to Tokyo first for a couple days. Then we're going to Washington. It reminds me, though, I have to get some Japanese yen because I'm going to Japan. Interesting, the ATM machines here in Hong Kong disperse to an ATM machine and take out Japanese yen direct from the ATM. So I got to do that today, actually. I should probably do that. And I got to get a hotel in Tokyo. I haven't done that yet. I thought about staying at the Lost in Translation Hotel. I enjoyed that movie a great deal, but it's extraordinarily expensive. Wacky. I'm still broadcasting. I'm not sure if you're still there, though. Oh, yeah, we're definitely in the blind. I don't think we've got a signal right now. It's really beautiful today. And we lost a lot of people. Oh well. Some of you are still here. I'm from DC. I'm from Illinois, but we lived in DC prior to moving to Hong Kong. Sorry about the signal loss. That happens. We're going to Washington, D.C. Yeah, just more cars in D.C. More people looking at me like, why are you walking? Sorry about the signal loss. That happens in the jungle. Hey, again, we're back. Down the mountain we go. Years of pollution. My lungs are going to be all right. I'm more worried about my kids, what sort of damage was done to them. Of course, it isn't always polluted. It's only the winter months that are really polluted. And we did run air filters basically 24/7 since we arrived here. And so they've been brought most of the time in filtered air. I do know a number of friends. Or a number of friends' kids who do suffer from asthma here or breathing difficulties. The kids were born in the United States, but they've lived most of their life here in Hong Kong. They don't really remember any life in the United States prior to moving here. We are leaving, sadly, for a while. Not necessarily permanently, though. We'll be coming back. We will be going to Washington, D.C. Washington, D.C. does not look like this. It should, to be cool, but it's not. Four years in Hong Kong. Cool. It has been a fun walk. Going back to Washington, D.C. for some career opportunities and educational opportunities for my kids. I will be pursuing some new options, and my kids will be going to a new school. We try to keep them informative. It's going to take a while to get used to the United States. Yeah, that's for sure. It's said it takes several years to get Hong Kong out of your system. I'm not sure I will ever. I mean, there are some things they do right here. There are like octopus cards, the subway transit card that's accepted as currency everywhere in the city. I mean, that's a brilliant idea. It's far more advanced than what's been going on in the U.S. I don't know if I'm going to press this law. People there are less stressed out. In the expat world, yes, definitely less stressed than in the United States. Much more relaxed. You can go down to the American Club and see everybody just sort of lounging around. We're leaving for some opportunities back in the United States. Some temporary career opportunities and some education opportunities. Almost down to my street. I cannot fly the drone. In fact, thanks for reminding me, I'm actually thinking of selling the drone here in Hong Kong before I leave, because it doesn't work in the US. I won't be able to do it. Here's a beautiful house. 7.4 million people in Hong Kong. Don't know the population of Seoul. It's been rough. It'll be sad. So next week about this time will be my last hike around the peak. You guys can come on and watch it if you want. We'll be talking to Periscope as well. Hopefully the weather will cooperate. I will try to scope in DC, 28 million in Seoul. Palo Alto is very expensive. We thought about going to California, but our work is taking us to DC and the DC schools. And the schools in Palo Alto are very stressed. I think things have calmed down from a few years ago with the problems at Gun. But our final walk will be 7 days. I leave in 8 days. So I get up, in 8 days I get up, and I go straight to the train station and then off to the airport. If you want, I can Periscope from the airport. Some of you guys like to see the Hong Kong airport. Maybe we'll do that. Hey, puppy. So I'm not sure if you saw yesterday. You can go to my Instagram TV or my replays yesterday. We did a taste test of Coca-Cola Clear yesterday. Coca-Cola Clear. It was disgusting. All of our belongings will be shipped on a boat, but the boat takes 2 months. It takes 6 weeks to get there, so we have to take enough clothes and other items for basically 2 months. We have to pack that in suitcases. Jonathan J.K., Bex Rhea, Raven, Tao, Steve on Radio 3, some of the other scopers in Hong Kong. No, the airport in World War II is called Kai Tak, and that has been torn down and turned into a cruise ship terminal. That's the one with the famous photos of jets coming in right over buildings. The new airport is out on Lantau Island, custom built about 20 years ago. Yeah, hopefully in the neighborhood I live in there won't be too many gunshots. But actually yesterday we had a gunfight in Hong Kong. The first time in over 3 years there was gunfire in the city. There was a domestic dispute in a park, and a woman shot her aunt and uncle in a park, and the city went mental because you just don't have gunshots in Hong Kong. You don't have guns here. So there was gunshots, and luckily, or whatever, the counterterrorism response unit was actually in the area. So as soon as the gunshots took place, counter-terrorist teams swarmed into the area with their automatic weapons, and they apprehended her in a shopping mall. Literally about 10-15 minutes after the shooting, she was nabbed. So I always tell you guys that there are cops everywhere in Hong Kong. Where did she get the gun? The big question is a Beretta 950, I guess, or something like that. And nobody's really sure where she got the gun. Oh, she was a security guard. She was a security guard, so she might have been able to have access to the gun as part of her work. Some security guards can carry guns. So we're not sure. She was actually a bodyguard for like Jet Li and some other famous people. So if you go to scmp.com, southchinamorningpost.com, scmp.com, you can read about the gunplay in the city. Oh God, the internet exploded yesterday when this happened. People were like, what? Guns? What? You're kidding. Here? Huh? There's a cockatoo up there. See that cockatoo? Lamborghini. It was an inheritance dispute. Grandma passed away, and the 40-year-old woman shot her 80-year-old aunt and 90-year-old uncle in the face or in the head over an inheritance dispute. Well, the police have guns, and some private security guys have like shotguns, like the guys who carried money and stuff. And there's actually one anti-boar team on another island that can have a gun. And the Hong Kong Rifle Club, which is like the Olympics, the air rifle team, they can have guns. But they're all stored in like a common facility kind of thing. It's not like they can walk around in the streets with them. Will I buy a gun? No. My hands are registered weapons. Okay, 25. Oh God, I got a meeting in 25 minutes. Thank God he's running 10 minutes late. I have time to take a shower. Woo! So we're going to have to end the scope. My kids are 9 and 12. What other countries consider living in? Oh, many other countries. France, U.S., France, England, Germany, Ireland, Japan, Australia, New Zealand. I don't know. The world is very small. There's not a lot of countries I won't live in. South Africa, probably. Kenya, I wouldn't mind living in Kenya, but Kenya's getting a bit crazy right now. Sweden, possibly Finland. Thought about that. It's a little cold. I'm not really into too much heat. I wouldn't live in, say, Singapore. It's just too hot. Look at the dogs. Good doggies. The dog's gonna poop. Doggy wants to poop. Hello. Holland, yeah, I'd love to live. Amsterdam would be great. Actually, living in some smaller community in the Netherlands, wouldn't mind that. Belgium. I really want to learn French. New Zealand is good, but it's rather isolating. I know a lot of people, a lot of Americans have moved to New Zealand, and they just feel so disconnected from the rest of the world. Now, for some people, that's great. Some people, though, it's rough. It's rough. Spain, I don't speak Spanish, and it's also a little bit hot, but, maybe Barcelona would be fun. So, guys, we're at the end of the scope. I will be back later with lunch, but right now I've got to run and take a shower because I got to get to a meeting. I'm running late. Bye-bye.